Why can we not end the polarization?
Politicians and the media feed on it. That's where the media makes their money. It's the division. They create the division.
I think the issue, the polarization, Frank, that you speak of is an unwillingness. It's an all or nothing. It's an all or nothing with most Americans. Either you agree with them or you disagree. There's no common ground anymore. You know, you might be a Democrat, but you might lean to a conservative position or a conservative policy, and you're chastised for that.
What does it say about our country when you don't talk to your own brother, when you've lost friends? In the survey that we did, 1 out of 4 Americans actually said that they stopped talking to someone.
It's just like pitting people against each other, winners, losers. So if you're on the right side, you're a winner, right? And that's ridiculous.
I've experienced racism just like he has. I've probably gotten worse. I've been told they're gonna throw me over the wall, okay? But I don't fault all white people for that. You are the individual, you are the ignorant person right there.
Right.
And other people learn that from that, and they think it's cool because it's a country of freedom. So if I want to choose to be ignorant because you taught me to be ignorant, then I will be ignorant. That's just the way it
We have an
is.
entire system, though, systemic racism. So it's individuals who enact those policies that subsequently hold us back for generations. There's a reason why I was born on the south side and not the north side.
Hispanics get equally discriminated too.
Who gets the worst
But
treatment?
somebody
That's-
has to stand up and say enough's
agree.
enough.
I agree.
Enough's enough. I mean, everybody has to stand up and say enough's enough, and either you get an attorney, you file a class action lawsuit, or just stand up for your right.
I just think that there's just a disconnect, and I think that if we did more listening and honestly trying to figure out the problem and the solution all in one night instead of just focusing on the problem, then we could get a lot further.
Then why don't we?
The disconnect, they're worried about their children or they're worried about their things instead of looking what the whole problem is in a whole instead of just what affects them.
To me, it's the imposition of values. I live in California. I do not feel like I do not share the values of Silicon Valley and those types of elites, and I feel like they're being imposed, and I can't really live as I want to and have conservative values.
The systematic, how the system's not really helping out the impoverished people. The elites, when it comes to their work, it's kind of tends to be monopolized, in my personal opinion.
You're blaming the politicians.
The politicians are blaming us.
You're blaming the politicians too?
I think it's like a feedback loop. We kind of, they divide us, we divide them, and it just keeps on going.
The main goal is always trying to separate people, and the main thing is, like what they keep saying, is for us to try to come to a middle ground and actually try to get a better understanding of each other.
You see it in interviews every day. One is talking and the other one interrupts, and it has become our norm, which, I would say a few years ago, it wasn't that way. There was a different level of respect, and now it has become normal.
Is this something that we should be focused on as a country? Do we need to address this? Or is it just the way the times are?
I think it needs to be addressed. It's just lack of respect.
I think the issue is listening. I think people just don't listen anymore. They're very quick to jump and cut someone off because they have a point of view that they feel is more important than or stronger than the person who's speaking. And then I think if you just listen, wait it out, listen to what the other person say, and make a constructive argument after the fact, it'll be more constructive that way.
I think it's division because people are insulting other people, and it's come from the president itself because it wasn't like that before Donald Trump was elected.
But I think we keep on, that's the main problem. We need someone that can reach out to everyone. It's so divisive. It's like in a relationship, we're trying to blame the others, telling them you're so wrong for having voted Donald Trump. Well, then they're like, well, fuck you, excuse my French. And so I think what we should do is to try to understand what everyone's position is, trying to find a middle ground. And
I respect everybody's point of view, but not to get into arguments. I usually like to stay with people who have more or less the same point of view as I do.
Is that healthy though?
Yes, in 2018 it is, because anytime I disagree with somebody, I notice that they make enemies with me. They don't talk to me anymore. It's not me not talking to them.
But this is sad. Because if I respect anybody, and yes, we don't listen as a society for sure. We want to speak and cut each other. But it's sad that if you don't have the same point of view of somebody, they don't talk to you. This is not America. This is not supposed to be like that.
But I'm just saying that I don't think that's fair, and I think people who jump to those conclusions may have some other issues. But I think that what I do like is that I do like debate. I like how it galvanizes us to go out there and to vote, because we've been very complacent.
I think it's important to listen. I think that we're very quick to make judgments and arrive at rash judgments. And I think it's far more complex than just arriving at rash judgments.
I think at the end of the day, whether you're immigrant or not, everyone's American. It doesn't matter what color, what race, what language.
Is our democracy in trouble?
I think ultimately it is, because I don't think enough people empathize with those who are different. And I think ultimately it is. I did rank it as one of my top strengths of the country, because I believe it is a strength, but I think it's in trouble.
I think we've forgotten how to compromise. And part of being in a democracy, I think, is learning to compromise and working together for the common good. And I'll admit it, I try to be self-aware. I find looking, across the room or whatever, trying to find that compromise. And I know our lawmakers have decided compromise is a dirty word. And so nothing gets done.
How are we going to bring this country together when the people who you want to fight for and the people who you want to fight for are completely different people?
Stop labeling people and creating groups. I believe it's been done by the political parties to create coalitions, and it's wrong. It's wrong and it hurts people on both sides.
I think there's a lot that people need to get out of their bubble. A lot of people see their neighborhoods, their communities, their families, and figure, oh, well, I see them disenfranchised, therefore everyone in that circle or must be disenfranchised, as opposed to going and meeting someone from another community or town or state and realizing their plight and their issues.
I haven't done a lot of elections, but this is the first election where families and friends lost each other after the election.
You lost friends and family?
A couple of friends that stopped talking.
Show of hands, how many of you lost a friend because of this election? That's, my God.
Yeah.
What happened?
It's Facebook friends from kids from high school or whatever. They're just so set in their ways, opposite of my opinion, don't want to hear anything, don't want to listen, can't hold a conversation. It's, you're the a-hole and I'm right. It's like, well, let's talk about it. No.
Right. And people are so for their side that they're not willing to listen to the opposite side on principle. And I think that's just.
But to lose a friend.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, things seem just very binary, whether it's one side or the other, and there seems to be no common understanding. And the more that you try to express your opinion or your side, the more they want to hold firm on theirs, and vice versa.
These were friends for about 15 years, and we were just Facebooking and debating on things. Like they would say, Hillary won the popular vote. And I said, well, that wasn't the score. The score was the electoral vote. If we wanted the popular vote, he would have just gone to California. You're a racist, you're a bigot, you're this, you're that. I'm unfriending you. Don't ever talk to me again. Don't ever contact me again.
So it went from she won the popular vote to you're a racist.
Yes.
That's really what it went?
Yes. I'm a racist, I'm a bigot, I'm a homophobe. I was Islamic because I didn't want the immigration, I just want to know who's coming here. That's kind of all I want to know. And then I'm Islamophobic, and don't ever talk to me again. I used to work in radio, so these were dear friends of mine for years.
I mean, for me, it wasn't necessarily that I was by any means calling my former friends now racist, but they didn't understand how my position was, no, you may not be racist, but I mean, I think you're saying you're okay with racism. And that just, we could just never see eye to eye. They didn't understand my position. I didn't understand their position. And, I think that goes back to that divided line. People are firmly planted on one side.
My experience has been that, the same thing with friends, that it seems like people don't know how to have a debate.
Can I say something? I hear both us on both sides that we keep saying that we don't want friends because we can't. If we shut ourselves out from this conversation right here, how are we going to move our country forward? How are I don't have kids yet, but how are our kids going to move forward if we can't sit down and have a conversation with each other? I don't agree with you guys, but that doesn't mean that we can't be human people to each other.
I think it's a difference between you and I discussing, okay, this is my opinion, this is your opinion, let's do that. But a lot of the people that I have disassociated myself with and unfriended, I would say, hey, I don't feel that it is right, for Trump to talk about deny, and I know this isn't the exact words, but to deny LGBT in the military. And then they'll go, oh, you're a so-and-so, and how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I guess we can't have this conversation now, because the moment I say, I'm questioning where you're coming from, you immediately paint me as a liberal curse word that I can't really say, and that you must be a snowflake, and that you must be offended by everything. I'm like, well, but that's not true.
I think the biggest issue that this country faces really isn't whether they're right or we're right. Correct. It's the politicians, both Republican and Democrat, that do not have the courage to sit down and actually do something about it, because they're scared they're not going to win their next election. That's a problem. So we the people fight each other when it's really them that really need to do something about it.
Your children are going to watch this. You think they're going to be proud? You think the American people are going to look in and say, this is constructive? This makes them feel... Then why are you doing it? Why are you yelling? Why are you yelling?
This is the way that America has become unfortunate.
down.
Then be the change.
That's why we're doing it.
So?
And I'm trying to do it. I try to hold intelligent conversations.
I don't hear that. I hear you interrupting them.
You're raising your voice and talking over
Excuse me, I'm talking. Thank you.
So even that.
How is that being an adult?
I'm talking still. Yes, Frank, you're looking at me. Did you have
No, because I'm looking at both of you.
Okay.
Both of you are doing this. She's staring at you and wants to pick a fight with you. You want to pick a fight with
I
her.
just want to speak intelligently. That's all.
But there's a difference between intelligent conversation and simply yelling.
I think when we stop becoming Americans that are looking out for each other's best interests with respect, that's when it degenerates into chaos. We need to be Americans, not hyphenated in any way, Americans. We need to assimilate with American lifestyle.
Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
To a certain extent,
To a
I
certain
do,
extent.
because
There
you
you
say assimilate with Americans. I don't like the word assimilation
Well, we have
because
250 years of
assimilation.
things to...
Of course, and yes, we all have a common bond that we are in this country and we are Americans, but I still feel that there are backgrounds and differences that we still can have while having the overall unified goal. And what I'm starting to notice, not just with this group but with everyone else, is that we would rather focus on that individualism rather than the collective of us being Americans on both sides of it. And there's a lot of stuff that we don't understand on this side because we haven't experienced it, and vice versa.
Correct.
There's a lot of, if it doesn't affect me, then it doesn't worry me. If it doesn't affect me, you know what, then it doesn't happen.
Can I bring it back to your original question, which was, why is it like this? And I think at the heart, and we've seen it here, it's different now than it was when I was younger, because the other side is not only wrong, they're evil. And they are devils in many ways. That's how they're portrayed. If you look on Facebook, the memes that come out, and it doesn't matter which side you're on, the left, the right, they're both depicted as being not just wrong, but evil. And I think John McCain, the Republican, was a really good example of someone who did work across the aisle. He's having Obama speak at his funeral along with George W. Bush. He was great friends with Ted Kennedy. He worked with the other side, and we do not see that now, and that has not been true in my lifetime until recently.
Started the day when Trump was inaugurated. Look at the protests that happened. Look at the colleges. They will not allow conservatives on their campus to talk. They won't. So the hatred started so quick, so fast. The anger, everything. It just set the tone.
We need to have respect. We need to have civility. Whether you agree with the other person or not, you need to treat people like another human being the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the thing that makes me crazy is, why can't we all just get along? Didn't Rodney King say that? We're sitting here fighting like cats and dogs. I mean, there has to be a middle ground somewhere along the line, and there's a place where people have to give in a little bit.
Over the years, this is just personal, you don't tell people what you think because you're going to be stigmatized for whatever you say, whether I say I voted Republican, Democrat. people jump on you and you get in a lot of trouble, and
But
so
I
you just
never
stop
saw this
participating.
anger.
I think in life sometimes right now the squeaky wheel gets the grease. There are too many people right now, not in this room because I respect them for the fact that they have a belief. But there's too many in this country that are in between that have either gotten turned off, don't care enough to listen to what's going on.
I think people's emotions tend to dominate the discussion instead of logic. I mean, I'm putting together some treatises on certain things, like in the 60s and 70s, the Civil Rights Act was great, but it spawned this racial and ethnic pride thing that I don't understand at all, because I'm not proud of being white, I'm not ashamed of it, I had nothing to do with it. It's not an accomplishment. I'm half Irish and half Polish, and I don't care because I'm an American. I had nothing to do with it.
The divide, the polarization, the anger. It's mostly the anger. Because it's affecting not only strangers, it's affecting families. And when you can divide within a family because of anger and politics, then that's dangerous. And I think it's the same as it was under Obama, with just a different face.
I'm going to ask you guys, because so many of you said, greatest country in the face of the earth. If I'm a kid who lives in Harlem, if I live on the south side of Chicago, if I live in Watts or Skid Row in Los Angeles, if I live in the barrios of Miami, is this really the greatest country on the face of the earth? No. If I'm one of those kids?
They have men who will mentor these kids. They have brother who will go and help these kids. There is a place for them to go, but it has to be a two-way street. They'll offer the help, but they have to want to take it too. And how do you get to them, and how do you teach them that the help that they could get is going to make them a better life?
Is
and
this
that's the struggle.
Is this an exceptional country for those kids who, as you heard, the only piece of advanced technology is the metal detector when they walk in? Is the American dream really alive for these people?
Everyone will have a cell phone, you can guarantee that.
Yeah.
They may not have a laptop, but they all have cell phones.
Yeah.